fast that even if your board is somehow dealt with, you have the ability to go for the quest completion, damage you deal to yourself is dealt to your opponent instead, kind of finisher. So pretty cool deck. Not as cool as the 6 Demon Warlock, Dark Glare, Stealer of Souls. Do 50 actions in a turn and kill your opponent on turn 5 Warlock. But a lot simpler to pull off in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I do feel that this Warlock deck will vanish. I think there's better Warlock decks in either direction. There's better Giant decks, and I think there are better combo decks. And I don't feel this improves on either of them. I feel that it's a very good deck, but it's like 3 decks rolled into one. It's what we were taught at school never to do. Never have 3 decks in one deck. Make your cards pull in the same direction. It's not to say they don't to some degree, and the more you play the deck, the more you discover some interesting interactions the deck has, and it's definitely powerful because it has the Warlock quest in it. Of course it's powerful. But my prediction is this deck slowly but surely vanishes from existence. It might delete itself.
I'm going to call you out in a couple weeks if it's still around.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so getting into this matchup a little bit. Warlock, NoHandsGamer keeps the Rune Metal Rod. Fantastic card. You're drawing a ton of cards, so just being able to reduce and get those big minions down faster, very valuable. Monsanto, he basically just wants to continuously stick things on board and then protect it with the Fel spells and then chip away at the life total and then use the Jace as kind of a finisher. But Warlock has a lot of ways to interact with the board, so you do have to kind of chain together these death rattles quite efficiently if you actually want to just be able to deal that consistent damage each turn. And Monsanto has the hand to do it. He has the Razor Boar and the Beastmaster, which is the ultimate combo, plus multiple death rattles that those could pull.
Yeah, one of the issues with this deck, the Warlock deck that you can have early on, is if you don't have the Soul Rend, you better fight for board with your minions. And apart from, obviously, if you hit a giant, whatever, early, your minions are basically utility minions for a variety of menial tasks. They're not really good at fighting 3/2 Death Rattle Boars, for instance. You can see now already. No Hands with the question, would he rather play the weapon, or would he rather try and get some minions on the board and try and fight for that board straight away? The weapon obviously being the better long-term investment.
It's tough because what I've noticed against Death Rattle Demon Hunter is that it does feel like if you try and fight for board aggressively, it's a losing battle, right? Because they just have such a great way to stick to the board. So I think the better way is just to play a kind of a standard game plan. Because if let's say he tries to put a minion on board and then kills this boar and then it pulls another minion out, that's just like net even damage. You're a card less, and you haven't furthered your game plan by developing weapon or tapping or getting closer to your quest completion. So I like the fact that NoHandsGamer goes for just a tap on 2, stick with the standard game plan, don't do anything fancy, weapon on 3, and then he's going to be able to have Tour Guide Hero Power on 4 and has a chance to hit like Backfire or more board control tools.
Getting very close as well, he will be able to get this giant down on 5, which means that next turn all he has to do is tidy up some of the damage. One of the weird things about playing against these Death Rattle decks is the timing of when you start killing your opponent's minions. You kind of hope they're going to exhaust themselves of things to pull from their own hand by just the way they curve out, but there is so much stuff in the Death Rattle deck, it doesn't tend to happen. Oh, it's a lot of damage already, TJ.
Yeah. Oh, Felgorger. Oh, yeah. Felgorger, new card. Draw Fel spell, reduce its cost by 2. So if we look at the Fel spells in the deck, you have Fury, which is, just more burst damage. Chaos Strike, more burst damage as well as draw a card. And Fel Barrage. He also has one copy of Chaos Leech, but that's more of a defensive card. But it does give you some needed lifesteal in case you're in a race. But it's basically all cards that deal damage, right? So another way to pressure NoHandsGamer. And he's starting to look at a lot of damage. And both the Battlemaster and the board, depending on which order he kills it in, right? If he kills the Beastmaster, first, and it pulls the Ectoplasm then the board won't pull anything. But we'll pull minions out. So No Hands has to be careful about how he sequences this if he's trying to calculate how much damage he can take.
The answer is not as much as he is facing. He's actually, I think, 1 off lethal, actually, Monsanto next turn, 2 off lethal, as it stands with no changes. But
yeah,
the Warlock does need a little bit of health to maneuver. It's not like some old Warlocks where they used to just taunt up millions of giants and everything never got through again. It is slightly slow to take over the board as well. So, yeah, he's taking the action he needs to take immediately, and that does reduce that Flesh Giant going into next turn.
Yep, and I like the sequencing there from No Hands. Killing the Razor board there has the least amount of options that can be pulled from hand, and also could be killed by Mortal Coil. And then he could taking the most power off board, because if he kills that Beastmaster, another minion pops out, he's leaving more damage on board. So nicely navigated turn. It's just now he needs a solid turn to get down his big threats when he's not facing down lethal.
Yeah,
which is going to be hard.
Big if. Yeah. He needs to really get this Baron's Scavenger down, but that's going to be a full, fat 5 mana, not the 1 mana he'd like it to be.
Yeah.
What else can he do?
Well, there's a Drain Soul. So that's pretty good. Raise Dead would give him back the, or could give him back 2 Tour Guides, but it could give him back Blood Mage Thanos, which is a little bit of extra healing. Flesh Giant can very easily be free here.
Yeah, that will end up free in this turn, I think.
Yeah, so there's no... This is not like traditional Zoo, or I say traditional, but the metagame's really new. It's not like a Zoo-y Warlock, which runs the animated broomstick. So it does need to actually stick minion and then attack with it next turn, instead of the Zoo Warlock, the Zoo Quest Warlock, which they go huge on board and then can start rushing it in for board control. But it looks like No Hands is going to forego the tap and play the full cost Cold Neophyte plus Flesh. Okay, never mind. He could play the low cost Cold Neophyte and a Flesh Giant. This is just starting to get a little bit scary.
Yeah. I think what he tried to do this turn is not use Raise Dead. That was the crux of what he wanted to do, because he's put a massive problem on the board in this Giant that will almost certainly be dealt with, or that's if your face isn't dealt with, which it might be. And then when the Giant dies, you want to Raise Dead the Giant and just replay it for 0 mana next turn. I think that's what he was spending so long considering.
Sorry, so he's got...
Yeah, go.
I was just going to say, probably the same thing that you were going to say. He just needs to make sure that he doesn't die to Battle Master, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so if he Battle Masters, that's 22 points of damage. And there really isn't anything else that he could use to buff that up. He's still at 15 cards, so can't get like Baron's Scavenger down, really, unless it's a crazy turn. And outside of that, there's not really anything that can block him. Still far from quest completion, so not going to respect these minions. Still could with the Cold Neophyte, but I think I'd lean towards shipping this to the face, because it would limit the options of No Hands and how he can damage himself going into the next turn.
Yeah, lots of taps and Raised Deads and things. The fewer of those, the better, but he wants to protect his minions, keep a lethal on the board, keep some lethal in hand, lethals everywhere. Ooh. Is this enough from No Hands? It's definitely the start he might have wanted, at least.
Yeah, that is a pretty good draw, just for the efforts of stabilization. I really don't want to play board control with this Flesh Giant. I'm looking at 16 damage upstairs. That's looking quite appealing. So let's see, what could he do here? He can't get that Baron Scavenger discounted with his hand. Raised Dead has Cult Neophyte and 2 Tour Guides in the pool, which could give him a free tap, but it would cost him 5 health, which I don't think he can get right now. I believe he still does have the second quest completion left to go.
Yes. Pretty sure.
So could cash... I can't see it.
Yeah, it's 2 out of 7, so yes, he does.
Okay, 2 out of 7. Yeah, but he could, like Raise Dead life tap. But he's just going to go for biggest minions on board. Not cash in on Battlemaster now, but I think that's fine. And I love the fact that he doesn't respect the board with the Flesh Giant because it's replacing itself.
Yep. And don't forget, it's lethal. If he ever hits a Battlemaster on this 8/8, it is just lethal if it gets to phase 16. So there's more problems here for Monsanto than it might seem.
Yeah. Death Speaker Blackthorn drawn still does have a Fell Rattler in the deck.
Okay.
One Renowned Performer as well, but has like a Beastmaster, has the Persistent Peddlers. But I think it's pretty likely he gets something that controls the board, gets both of his Rush minions. So this will allow him to clean up the board a lot and still push damage, I believe. So I think Fell Rattler goes in first, then you trade over the 1/1 taunt. Actually, I don't know. This is tough.
I mean, yeah, I think he just needs to make sure that he doesn't take too much next turn because there's so many lethals getting set up for him. He just needs to do the ABC of Hearthstone of just don't let your opponent have anything on the board, almost like arena mode when you play this sort of deck sometimes.
Yeah.
Because if you don't die, you're going to win.
Yep. And I like the fact that he respects the board because No Hands is low enough, and Monsanto actually has some damage next turn, right? Fellforger could pick up either second Fury or second Fell Barrage. Oh, goes to 10 cards, which means the Bloodshard Bristleback is active.
Start gaining that health back. I only realised today, and the card's been around a long time now, that this thing has lifesteal even after it does its battle cry. I think of it as battle cry, gain 6 health, kill a thing, but actually it's just a lifesteal minion that if they don't kill it, you gain even more health back.
Yeah.
It's not usually there the next turn.
I think he's still just dead though, isn't he? Or not dead, but like he's going to be playing what? Bloodshard Bristleback, which has to happen. And then a Flesh Giant. And that's it.
Right.
A Soul Rend would be fantastic right about now. 2 in the deck, both in bottom 10. But doesn't have the mana to be able to do it. To be able to like tap into it.
When does somebody put Defender of Argus into this deck?
Good point. So he took out the Blackthorn, which is the most efficient, but it's actually takes off the least amount of damage. The 2/2 Adventurer that has Wind Fury would actually be the most damage. And wait, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13. Just looks like he just left himself dead. Or very close to it. I think he was at 15. Monsanto would have needed 1 damage source, whatever it was, Chaos Strike, Fell Barrage, anything, in order to take it out. So Monsanto takes the first game, and a good showing for the Death Rattle Demon Hunter. I think that you can kind of get a good sense of what it's all about, right? It's just having sticky minions and having the Fell spell package instead of that top end of the Inquisitors. Make things a little bit cleaner in the mid game instead of being stuck with 8 mana cards in your hand. You have a little bit more like spells to kind of bridge the gap between your Death Rattles and your finisher, which I thought was pretty cool.
Something I really liked about that game, I thought it highlighted very well how this meta game is right now, in that you'd better not make a mistake. At any point there, if Monsanto doesn't give his opponent enough respect, he just dies. So you've really got to respect your opponent, because even though there's not that many turns in the games, I know that's a bit of a meme, but you know, we're on turn 7 and 8 here. If you mess it up, you will get killed coming back the other way. So you've got to constantly really maximize every aspect of the game. The part where, okay, how much can they do? You've got to get that right and not get it wrong, and then you've got to maximize your turn, your aggression around that. And that's going back and forth. That's really interesting to me how it works out.
Yeah, now Monsanto's going to move to his Quest Warlock. So I think I may have like mislabeled this. We're still early in the metagame, so you might see the archetype labels change a little bit. We're calling this Quest Zoo Warlock, but this is more of like the hybrid variation. The actual Zoo Warlock would run like the Hecklefang Hyenas, like more minions instead of like this Stealer of Souls, Nightshade Matron, Hand of Gul'dan kind of combo. But this is still a Zoo Warlock. It just runs different things. One animated broomstick. This is a little bit different than NoHandsGamer, where you're not trying to end the game with Flesh Giants plus Battlemaster. You're trying to control the board, and then you have the added benefit of being able to go Stealer of Souls, Dark Glare, nonsense, right? Nightshade Matron, just straight up casting Hand of Gul'dan, drawing a bunch of cards that damage yourself, turbo completing the quest, and killing your opponent in a single turn. It's not all in. It's not the 6 Demons Warlock where you're guaranteed it with free admission, but it has that as a game plan if you need it.
And a deck that, if you've played Hearthstone since the new cards came out, you have faced, and you've basically faced it before, except it's even faster now. OTK Demon Hunter, love it or hate it, it's here. And it is now so fast that Skull of Gul'dan, what's that card? 6 mana? We don't do 6 mana in these parts, TJ. We do 4 mana or less.
Yeah, the quest has really outshone the Skull of Gul'dan, right? Because you're still getting discounts on cards. You just are able to fit in more cheap draw. And the Persistent Peddler Tusk Piercer interaction is like bonkers, right?
Right.
You only play the 1 Death Rattle, which is a tradable Death Rattle. So you're guaranteed at any point to have a Death Rattle draw from your deck, because if you're about to swing a Tusk Piercer and it's in your hand, you just trade it back, and then you swing at the Tusk Piercer, guaranteed another draw, right? You're guaranteed 2 draws, actually, because then you can, whatever sequence you play it in, you can trade it back, Tusk Piercer, trade it back again, which helps you complete the quest. It's just nuts. Yeah, it's faster than ever before. You thought, maybe OTK Demon Hunter will get muscled out of the metagame? No way. Still there.
Luckily for Monsanto, though, the only thing that's even trying to stop OTK Demon Hunter from just taking over on ladder is the variety of Warlocks. They do seem to be able to just get the advantage, partly obviously because Cult Neophytes run in the deck, but also they can hit you pretty hard with Giants, which there's no real sensible answer to for Demon Hunter. Yeah, you can answer the Giant before somebody gets pedantic with me, but you usually lose a lot of resources doing so, and then the Zoo just puts more Zoo on the board. And then you've got the combo kill should all that fail as well. So they really have it to do to stop for the Demon Hunter to stop the Zoo. Big question here, though, TJ, is these Neophytes. The timing of these could be pretty crucial. It used to be easy with Skull of Gul'dan. You did it going into their 6 mana turn, but a lot more complicated now.
It's almost impossible to tell when you're supposed to go for it. The biggest one is, if you have the luxury to be able to do so, is either right before you think you're about to die or as early in the game as possible to delay their quest completion, right? It's no longer save the Cult Neophyte going into their potential skull turn, because every turn is a skull turn in OTK Demon Hunter now. That's what it feels like. So yeah.
And the quest just likes to remind you, just flashes across the screen. You are losing. Slow down. Your opponent is killing you if you're sat on the other side of the Demon Hunter. Yeah.
And if you're sat on the other side of the Warlock, his quest is completing. He's killing himself?
Yeah, we're both killing the same person, but one of us has minions and the other one just has, I don't know, sigils and things.
Yeah, sigils and things. That's what we should call it, actually.
What, sigils and things? Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
It's better than Monsanto's name for his Fell Demon Hunter that he gave you earlier, which was Death Rattle, but with the Fell package Demon Hunter, which wouldn't fit on the screen, so we couldn't oblige.
Yeah. And he said, fine, I'll settle with Death Rattle Demon Hunter, so.
Okay.
So this has been an interesting opening for Monsanto. Instead of playing Quest on turn 1, decided to deviate, play Tour Guide on 1, and then Neophyte on 2, which I like, because a lot of times what the Demon Hunter wants to do is they want to complete the first iteration of their quest on the next turn, and this would make it harder, because usually you would go Sigil of Alacrity on 2 and then Acrobatics on 3 in order to complete the quest, because that right there completes it because you draw 4 cards. But No Hands has a conveniently placed Spectral Sight that's already in outcast position. It was not kept in the mulligan, so Monsanto would have no way of knowing that. So I like the play, to play around the acrobatics, but it's not rewarding.
But look what Monsanto's left himself the option to do as well here. By playing the tour guide and not tapping, he has the option now to coin out a stealer and tap next turn. He also could just go with Cult Neophyte, slow you down again, but he can get himself a nice, juicy, effectively free card, because the damage, the first 10 damage is kind of free in this deck. You're okay to take some damage.
Yeah. This is interesting. Yeah, he could go coin Stealer of Souls, but he doesn't have a Raise Dead in hand, so there's no guarantee that he gets it back. He's delaying his quest completion by a lot because he hasn't even played it. So he's like throwing that game aside, which defeats the purpose of getting that Stealer of Souls down early. And it's not the most difficult thing in the world for No Hands to answer the Stealer of Souls on 4, right? It's like Moarg I-Beam or Immolation Aura. Immolation Aura, Hero Power I-Beam, right?
Yep.
Like, it's not the craziest thing in the world to expect it to
Monsanto looks like he's going to load up into the next turn, his 4-mana turn. And we'll see a lot of stuff. And then if you want to I-Beam my Stealer of Souls, well, I'm going to hit you with some 3/2s again, which will be fine for both of us.
Pleasure doing business.
Yep.
Persistent Peddler, with the mana cost being persistent, persistently goes down.
Yeah. Not able to complete the quest this turn, and that Spectral Sight's going to be in an awkward position, but does have acrobatics. Yeah, he wouldn't be able to complete it now unless he goes Sigil Runner and then Illidari Studies and hits Sigil Runner again. Right? Is he a 2 out of 5 or 3? Let's see here. Yeah, so he could Illidari Studies and hit Crimson Sigil Runner again, which could complete the quest, but I think it's too risky because if he doesn't hit it, he's stranding whatever outcast card that is. Alright. Stealer of Souls. See what he gets.
Get a free card.
Oh. There's no follow-up. The card draw ends there, which is the problem, right?
So many possibilities.
So
got a lot of
to
things
hit
to just
Backfire or Hand of Gul'dan in order to kind of keep the Stealer Souls train rolling.
I wonder if he's
now.
I think he might be considering whether to play the Broomstick as well, right? To get the 2/6 into a 1/1 so he can protect his neophytes a bit better.
Okay.
Because at the moment those 2 Sigil Runners are threatening to take one of them down. Yeah, so now that's protected.
Yeah, he wants to protect the Stealer Souls as much as possible. So, and I mean, Broom is not really getting much use in this matchup anyway, right? So that's not that's a pretty liberal use of it. But what are you going to be trading minions into? If you APM fast enough, you can Broom the Il'gynoth before it OTKs you. I don't think so.
Yeah, just after you. Yeah, Piers, go. No, you're not allowed. Sorry.
Yeah.
Although, who knows? Maybe you
Get the Flesh Giant down to Broom it right as the Il'gynoth hits the board before the second Moarg, you know?
just have to keep practicing that one.
Yeah.
But also the coin was useless as well. If his Stealer does stick, then you won't need that coin most likely.
Yeah. So there is a way for... actually, there's not, right? He could go Talented Arcanist Immolation Aura. Yeah, he could kill it. Just Talented Arcanist.
I mean, he can kill it, but yeah, it's a way of killing it that doesn't ruin your combo. Obviously, you don't mind ruining the combo because you rifle through your deck so quickly.
Yeah.
You still want to keep as much as possible.
Yeah. I think No Hands is in a good spot.
I think this is one of the things that makes No Hands the player he is. The willingness to spend his whole turn looking for slight improvements on his initial thoughts. And
yeah.
Sorry, you were gasping. What's going?
Hand of Gul'dan picked up.
Oh, nice.
So Dark Glare still costs health. Even Silver Soul's effect is persistent. So once you draw it with Silver Souls on the board, it costs health until you play it. Right? It's not like your spells cost health instead of mana while it's on the board. So he's able to get that down. Now he's going to be able to get the Nightshade Matron down and get that the Hand of Gul'dan. Okay, Flame Imp as well. I mean, it'll refresh a mana crystal, but I don't think he wants to use the Touch of Nathrezim now for heal.
Yeah, I don't
You can kind of disregard it. Yeah. It's an awkward
they
spot.
kill Moargs, those things.
Yeah. Yeah, this is his pressure's kind of petered out a little bit. This kind of hybrid zoo with the Stealer of Souls. You want to be collecting resources for Stealer of Souls Dark Glare combo, but at the same time, you're building your deck around just having huge bursts of minions. He hasn't hit Flesh Giant. He got his draw just like a turn too late. And now NoHandsGamer is rolling with card draw.
Yeah, he has basically everything. He just needs a little bit of spell damage. And this is where it's hard to play against this deck. You have to, like Monsanto last turn assumed, well, I shouldn't be dead going on 6 mana, based on what I've seen so far, and the fact I forced No Hands to clear a Stealer. But from this turn onwards, I think we will see Monsanto be very reluctant to go below 24. We may see him kill one of his own minions just to go back above that number. Or he may just say, damn it, I'm just going to keep attacking you and hope you don't get rid of my things.
Yeah.
Got the Mosha.
Which he can't easily get rid of it without spending more plus Fellscreen Blast here. So a little interesting option for No Hands there. Not going to say that it's incorrect whatsoever. But he had the option to Spectral Sight for 1. And then get the discount on his Moarg, and then Philosophy a cheaper Moarg. Because as he did it now, he had to Philosophy the more expensive Moarg. He had to Philosophy a 2-mana Moarg. Just to get the extra draw from Spectral Sight. But he was at 4 to 5 on the quest, so he could have just Spectral Sighted for 1, got the quest completion, and then Philosophied and have a 1-mana Moarg. So he'd have 2 1-mana Moargs and 1 less card, 1 less discounted card in hand, or how he did it now, and gets a discounted Fellscreen Blast instead. So all things considered, his play worked out best. But you can always think about those optimizations, right? If you know that you absolutely need to combo 1 turn sooner, getting the double discounted Moarg has a lot of value. And so sequencing of those things matters. But I think that I like the way that No Hands went about this turn, how it panned out and what the game state is now, because he's not at risk of dying at the moment. There's no Battle Master in the deck for Monsanto.
I think he did actually try to get the I-beam off on the Dark Glare as well, and it didn't get off in time. He does play with the, I call it the eye tracking software, but it's the spot on his glasses, the camera tracks that. And I think one of the big things that's improved about his play actually is he's learned to accept that. He's very good at he's incredibly good at it as he picks up lethal.
Yep. Wait.
Lethal? Yeah, it's lethal. B5.
No, doesn't have the mana.
The mana short?
Yep. And even if he had done the double discounted Moarg last turn, he wouldn't have the discounted Fellscreen Blast. So it would have, and he wouldn't have drawn the Talented Arcanist, right? So, but if he had already had Talented Arcanist Fellscreen Blast in hand, then he would have been able to have lethal this turn if he went about it in the other order. That's why I pointed it out. But his play is correct. I don't want to say that. I'm just pointing out things because it's a new metagame. Trying to teach. So yeah, 1 turn away. Could just Moarg double I-beam here. Right?
Sure.
Because that would fill up 7 mana, and that would it would bring him up to an 18, which is a nice healthy life total, and he's not giving up any combo pieces, and then he has lethal next turn. So I think that's the play.
Yeah, with 9
or
cards left,
double,
probably calculate.
Yeah, or double Moarg and I-beam. Because it
just mentioning that last
same amount of health.
I interrupted myself on it. Basically, No Hands, I think, has improved a lot at accepting that, that's how he plays the game. He used to get really angry if he timed out or something like that, but now he's just professional enough to go, no, that's it. That's an unfortunate thing that will happen. And it's all resolved in exactly the same situation now. He's got the I-beam off that he would have had previous.
Ooh, Stealer Souls picked up. Okay. So if he Stealer Souls taps into Hand of Gul'dan with the Dark Layers on the board.
Yes.
So that step is already complete, right? Get the Dark Layer, it's on the board. So if he needs to get a pop-off turn here because he's gonna die. So he needs to hit card draw right now. Hand of Gul'dan. All right, let's go.
And Monsanto will be balancing getting more mana crystals back from the Dark Lair with not dying, with rifling through his deck, with probably killing No Hands, but it's easier said than done. We've seen this fail a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to go, right? He took a long time to play that Stealer Souls and Hand of Gul'dan. Colt Neophyte picked up from the race set as well. That will block No Hands' ability to go for the combo next turn as well. So if anything, as long as he ends this turn, with Colt Neophyte, he's good. And he can use the Touch Nathrgens to get rid of the Moarch, so he needs to make sure that he kills both Moarchs. And then, yeah.
And now we wait, TJ, to see how many things he actually did.
That's all he needs. I mean, once he hit the Colt Neophyte, that was essentially all he needed.
Right, what can No Hands do? Nothing, I think. Well, we know it's nothing, and he knows it's nothing because the Stealer and the Tamsin are just the end of the game. So, as is the massive board and a million other things.
Yeah. So if he clears this board and doesn't gain health, Monsanto is lethal from hand because just Tamsin, Tour Guide, tap, Unstable Shadow Bolt, the Tour Guide is 9 damage. And he's, again, 1 mana off lethal because of the Colt Neophyte increasing the cost of the Fellscream Blast. Because Il'gynoth, Moarch, that's 6, Talented Arcanist, that's 8. So it doesn't have enough mana for the Fellscream Blast. And so he'll need to expend this Talented Arcanist, and then he has to double jump, and then he doesn't have any Outcast cards left, so it'll get the I-Beam on board. So he's not dead, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because
you're right,
Tamsin, Tour Guide, Life Tap, Unstable Shadow Bolt is 9?
But we haven't seen any of the big cards. Hasn't got anything to... Has he got both raised deads?
No, he used a raised dead earlier on the previous turn. That's how he got back the Colt Neophyte.
Right, yeah.
He's got 1 raised dead left in the deck, I believe. Backfire, Blood Fountain. All right, so Guild Trader costs 4, right? He'd be 1 mana off even if he drew Guild Trader.
Pleasure doing business.
Unless it's been reduced at any point and shuffled back, but I don't think it has.
No, we haven't seen it at all. I wonder what he was trying to hit there, because I don't think there was any lethal outs for him. Because Guild Trader would have been 1 mana too expensive. Because I don't think the Guild Trader had any discounts whatsoever. He had a second Fellscream Blast in the deck, but even that wouldn't have been lethal because it would only been on 1 target. It would have only been on the Tamsin. So he would have Fellscream Blast that for 4 and then done 12 on the Fellscream Blast on his own minions, which would not have even been close. Guild Trader plus 1 Moarg, if he had picked that up, would have only been 18. So if he had gone like Guild Trader into now, because he had to draw the Persons of Peddler in order for the draw. Yeah, I don't think I can't think of any outs. Maybe I'm missing something now. But just a nice turn by Monsanto. The Colt Neophyte being the big one because he wasn't anywhere close to killing him with the quest because he didn't have enough mana, didn't have enough damage cards from the Stealer Souls and Dark Lair to get to that 5 mana threshold. It didn't seem like. So nicely done. And Monsanto now 2-0 up in the series.
Yeah, and he tweeted out that he wasn't happy with how he played in the first few days, or the first round, but I think he's playing very well today. That was good vision to see exactly what he needed to do there, to keep it in line, to try and run No Hands out of resources as much as anything, which is really a high-level play against Demon Hunter, because you never run them out of resources. And just have an overall feel of what was going on in his opponent's deck. I thought that was really nicely done, and game one looked good in the same way, making sure not to have any accidents. So Monsanto, as we expect from him, but playing incredibly high standard.
Yep, I would say so. Nicely done. A little bit of a different kind of game plan from the get-go than what we normally see with just quest played on one. He went for Tour Guide into Cult Neophyte, really disrupting the early game for No Hands. So now Monsanto moved to his final deck. It is the Quest Mage. This can be built a couple different ways. I mean, obviously there's like 26 cards that are mandatory, and then there's a few slots that you play around with. The biggest one in testing Monsanto's Quest Mage was when playing against decks that don't play minions, it seemed very difficult to get the Frost quest, or the Frost portion of the quest done, because he doesn't play all of his Frost spells outside of Ice Barrier require targets. He does, however, play 2 Wand Thieves. So Wand Thieves, it's not like the Spell Mage that we saw in the last metagame where you can't play minions at all because it shuts off Fauna Power, it shuts off Apexis Blast. You're not playing those cards. So really it's just refreshing Spring Water that is the card that you have a disadvantage for drawing a minion, but you only have 2 in the deck. A lot of times you're keeping them in the mulligan, and it does give you that added, kind of, okay, I need this school of spell, right? I need a Frost spell that I can play on an empty board. Wand Thief's going to help you find that. So, but yeah, No Head's going to be queuing up the Aggro Elemental Shaman, which pretty good matchup, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like the play a minion so you can zap your own minion with a Frost spell thing. I think that the times the refreshing Spring Water does hit it are so painful. Yeah. That it doesn't suit my taste. I absolutely understand it. Like you say, there's only 2 in there. Why should it hit them? But when it does, oh my goodness, it is so terrifying.
Yeah. I do like the Shattering Blast. It seems awkward, but in the matchups where you're playing against a combo deck that doesn't have a board ever, you can just play it for 3, even if there's no frozen minions, even if there's no minions on board. Which sometimes is necessary to kind of turbo through the quest. This is not one of those matchups, Elemental Aggro Shaman, even though its main win condition is Doomhammer plus weapon buffs, it still plays the minions early on, and so you can still get those Frost spells completed, which Monsanto's got plenty of them.
Yeah, the Shaman can get this done, absolutely. It hits you so hard with these Doomhammers and Rockbiters. You can't freeze faces anymore. There's no Frostbolt. Imagine if Frostbolt existed, TJ. How many times would that be in this deck?
The deck would go up 3 tiers. That's 0 mana, deal 5-6 damage, whatever. 0 mana, deal 6 damage. 2 encounters first played, which you always assume.
I just stop all the Doomhammers and everything. Yeah, it'd just be so good.
Yeah, and it, progresses the Frost portion of your quest. It's pretty insane. Oh, yikes. Okay. Well, those Doomhammers are going to get some work done. However,
yeah,
prefer to keep that minion train rolling, keep your opponent busy, so that way when you play Doomhammer on 5, it's usually after your opponent had to work to clear up a big board. So it was just it's just been Primordial Studies and a trade for 2 mana. So still missing a fire spell, I believe, for quests, even if Fury was played here. Flurry, sorry. Fury.
It's the same thing. He's playing that as well. He's playing them all.
Yeah, he plays Flurry, Fury. Ate some curry earlier.
These are all players. Fury Hunter, Flurry, just a player. Hurry My Curry, Battlegrounds player. All players. He's trying to work out to the ordering of things here. He's got A Rune Orb, where do you put it? Onto a minion, into the face. You've got double flurry.
Runs out on me.
Ice Barrier's a nice mana fit, but it doesn't actually do anything this turn. Or
I like this.
just get the quest
I like this a
done.
lot.
Yep. I think this deck and Rogue are the ones where you have to get your quests done, aren't they? You don't have a deck if you don't.
I mean, if you're playing a little bit of a slower matchup, you can kill without completing the quest, but I mean, by that time, you're probably completing the quest by accident anyway. So, yeah. In the matchups where it matters, yes, you don't win without completing the quest. So, unless it's an all-in aggro deck and you can just play removal in the early game, but whatever. You still need to complete the quest at some point. All right, there it is. Quest complete, at least the first iteration. Still got to be a little bit worrying for Monsanto. He's seen a pretty slow, not a slow opening by any means, but like two totems on 2 turns in a row with this deck. And Cage Match Custodian played, you know it's probably Doomhammer plus Doomhammer support, right? You got to be feeling that, so.
Doomhammer and friends.
Yep, that's what this deck is called.
We're coming up with better names all the time, TJ. We should have brainstormed this earlier.
Job done.
All right. And to be honest, this was the deck that I would be most worried about for Monsanto in this series, because if you look at No Hand's lineup across the board, I'd say that it's one of the better lineups for going up against the Quest Mage. Right? OTK Demon Hunter usually does things a little bit faster. They don't play a board. It's harder for Mage to complete their quest. The Aggro Elemental Shaman, and then the maybe quote-unquote worst matchup is that Self-Fatigue Zoo, but that's only because you stick a Flesh Giant with a Battleground Battlemaster loaded and ready, and then your Flesh Giant gets frozen for 10 turns in a row. So that's the downside. That's the weakness for No Hands in this list. But the other 2 decks should be favored against Mage. Oh, Ice Barrier. Nice.
Yeah. Another 8.
Yep. Very valuable. Progresses the Frost portion of the quest as well, even though he already... Oh, no. He has Flurry as well that he could have done it with, but Ice Barrier is just a great defensive tool.
Yeah, and you don't need... I mean, we've talked about how, you know, this Doomhammer's going to do damage, but you don't need to buy yourself many extra turns as the Mage to swing this massively in your favour. It's a pretty fast deck. It's just like half a turn too slow for the current meta, but one turn goes your way and you're back in it.
Yeah, the problem becomes, without an Encounters flow, the actual quest completion turn is very difficult. Because you have to spend 5 mana, and then if you don't have like a 1 mana cram session to follow it up, plus cheaper stuff, you could find yourself in a spot where you're spending 5 mana to play 7/7, then having no follow up, which can be difficult. So that's the problem here. And I mean, Monsanto doesn't have many turns left.
Yeah, the friends side of the Doomhammer and friends are coming to play next turn.
Yeah. I mean, his smaller friends have already come into play with Wailing Vapor and Cage Match Custodian actually getting in some damage. And this Battle Totem. Look at the Stoneclaw Totem. Just getting it done.
How many friends does this Doomhammer have? Or don't we know? Is the friend list not working well enough?
He had 200, but had to narrow it down to 28.
28 would be enough, though, right now. Monsanto is down to 20. Don't think he can quite find 28.
Yeah. Isn't lethal just yet. Only Stormstrike could go face. How broken would that be? In which case... No, I think you cash in on the Doomhammer damage now, right? Stormstrike one of your own minions, Rockbiter, cash in the damage, and the next turn, even if an Ice Barrier is played, you can like Primal Dungeoneer and hit a like a Serpent Shrine Portal to get the last bit of damage. He doesn't.
Yeah, the Instructor will find it.
Never mind.
One or whatever. The Instructor will find damage. Something will find the damage. So I agree with you on cashing in now. He does it on a new totem. He wants the Taunt Totem there, so that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And cashes in!
Yeah. Actually, this deck is very lean on spells. Primal Dungeoneer will hit Rockbiter only?
Let's have a look. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the Rockbiter. So he's got the Custodian that only fetches Doomhammers. This is a Doomhammer and Friends deck. It's absolutely what we're going to call it from now on.
Yep. Yeah. So Primal Dungeoneer guaranteed to hit second Rockbiter next turn, which means he would have to kill the totem and... Yeah, kill the totem and play Ice Barrier in order to survive.
And that's if he doesn't get Fire-Hearted.
Also true.
Short version, there's a lot to do to survive here, but he is 2-0 up, so...
Ooh.
Another happy gift runs out on me.
Deep Freeze. Needs this to be Barrier? Nope, not Barrier. He had played 2 barriers already, one naturally in the deck and one discovered from the first Rune Door, and so he had one left. Just wasn't able to find it and is going to concede. He's just dead to the Doomhammer on board with how things panned out. So no hands. Coming back in the series now 2-1 with still a good mage matchup left in one of his decks. But the Zoo Warlock would be what Warlock would be what I'm worried about for No Hands following that up. Obviously, it's not a bad matchup, but you're always worried about your Giants just continuously getting frozen over and over again.
What do you think about No Hands not resubmitting? In seasons gone by, there were players that I wouldn't have been surprised if they didn't resubmit because, maybe a bit lazy or a bit sort of checked out. But No Hands is none of those things. He's the exact opposite of that. So why would he not resubmit new decks?
He's happy with his list.
Okay.
Which is fair, right? I mean, if you look at his list like across the board, I think, with how his strategy is, right, he has Face Hunter, which I think was a great bring, right? Face Hunter has game against just about everything. Maybe he could change some tech choices, but you also can't predict if other players are going to resubmit. It wasn't a mandatory, they had the option to. He's got OTK Demon Hunter, always a safe bring. His own Warlock deck that became popular and a lot of other people submitted it and are playing it. And then an Aggro Shaman, which again, if you're trying to target these combo decks that take some time to get rolling, some time to get rolling, not a lot of time to do some, then those are solid brings, I think. So.
Now those combo decks are pretty weak to aggro in general. It doesn't feel that way when your Shadow Priest gets killed 3 times in a row by Warlock, but overall, if you get the right key to the door, you can take down these combo decks with the right aggro deck. It's just general rules fall apart. You need to get the right opposing deck in there sometimes. Game number 4 though, and No Hands queuing them in order of favourability. He fancies his chances with this Demon Hunter, I should think here.
Yep. All right. So this matchup, I like OTK Demon Hunter in this matchup. They're usually not playing many minions in the early game, outside of Crimson Sigil Runner, which means that it can be hard for the targeted spells of Mage to progress the quest. OTK Demon Hunter usually can complete... They don't need to complete their quest, right? It's not necessary. The first 2 portions of the quest, yes, but the third one, absolutely not, to actually get the Kurtrus. And usually can get their combo off faster, and it's a 1-turn kill. It's not like setup turn, then kill turn. It's kill turn. So.
Yeah. What I found with Kurtrus is he's good in... say you're playing against Hunter and you use all of your combo pieces just to get rid of all the early Hunter attack, and then you just play a 7/7 when they've got nothing left. That's the good use for Kurtrus as a closer.
Yeah. All right. This is going to tell a lot about No Hands. Oh, yes. Holds the Crimson Sigil Runner. Yes.
So that is the plan. Don't let the frost spells go off. Monsanto does have the solution with his own Wand Thieves, but sure, you want to blow up your own minions, you can be my guest. You're asserting so much less pressure by doing that.
Yeah. So Crimson Sigil Runner would have been cycled, but it wouldn't have been getting any quest progress because it would have been the only card draw he would have had that turn aside from the natural one. He already has Acrobatics in hand, which means that he is only like one card draw effect away from completing the quest elsewhere. So I think, or completing the first portion of it. So just not giving targets for Flurry, I think, for the Frost spell, delaying the quest by that much more is worth it to not take the card draw from the Crimson Sigil Runner.
Yeah, and you can see how much Monsanto is not enjoying this turn. He couldn't decide at all how to progress because he had two pretty horrible options to choose between. It does go for spell damage on the Cram session going forward. That's a plan for a couple of turns' time. But immediately he still has this Flurry issue to worry about. Oh, and No Hand is just clearing the minion off the board. Expecting
he's not going to play many minions, right? So might as well get the Immolation Aura out of his hand. The Acrobatics again, same as last turn. He doesn't have a way to get that fourth card draw for the quest, which means that he doesn't want to play Acrobatics because he wants to be able to get that discount on the same turn that he draws cards and not have to start over on his progress. This is the downside, though, of not playing the Crimson Sigil Runner, is that he's one less card deeper in his deck, which, he's delaying Monsanto's quest completion, but he's also delaying his own. So we'll see with time if that does end up being the results-oriented right play.
Oh, what is going on? Hero power you. Hero power you back.
You can't even activate the combo on his Wand Thief. Oh, jeez.
And I've got to admit, in general, as we see what he picks here.
Oh, well, now he's going to have to play a Sigil Runner if he draws it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I'm down for a glide.
Monsanto's going to cram some sessions here, I suspect.
Yep.
Yeah, in general, I tend to be opposed to... I'm not going to proceed with my game plan because it messes up yours, but it's showing that in this particular game, this is a really good way forward. Because he's messing up Monsanto more than he's hurting himself, is No Hands, I feel. Like you say, things get a bit weird when you're the favoured deck and you're slowing down the unfavoured deck, because you are giving them time to catch up.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. If you think you're favored in just a straight-up game, but, maybe saying that he's favored in the first place is because of the fact that he has the option to disrupt the quest, right? When I gave the spiel about why it's favored, the biggest point was you're not playing minions, so it's hard for them to complete their quest. So they're slower. Yep, completing the fire portion of his quest, nicely done. Okay, so he can dump a Philosophy here and glide, and he's only missing out on one. He's replacing these cards that he doesn't want, even though he's only getting one less back. But he's replacing with cards that he does want, and it completes the quest.
And this it's
to draw. Yeah.
Like Monsanto's work in setting up spell damage to draw cards to do things over the last 3 turns, all been undone by being glowed or gliddered.
Yeah.
Glod.
Wait, what? These are bad too.
What's this game of Hearthstone?
Oh man.
Oh no. All we now need is a fishy flyer when we're back in the last meta.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he has Sigil of Alacrity, so he's going to get that extra draw in the beginning of the next turn. Monsanto finally has a Frost spell that he can actually play because his minion's stuck. So, I mean, thank you, Mr. Glide, right?
Yeah, enjoy the mini dopamine rush while you can for actually completing part of your quest. But joking aside, because No Hands has whiffed pretty hard here, Monsanto is actually starting to get into a decent position.
Cram session. Oh. There's an argument for Conjure Mana Biscuit. There's also a weird argument for Brain Freeze for the third Frost Spell for the quest,
Right.
but he's very likely to pick up an Ice Barrier at some point in the meantime. So I think just Cram Session. The reason why Conjure Mana Biscuit I think is okay is because he has card draw in the form of Rushing Spring Water, and Conjure Mana Biscuit can get you that burst of mana once you do complete the quest in order to like try and kill in the same turn. But without Incanter's Flow, that's very difficult, even with the extra 2 mana. So.
And No Hands a total whiff of a turn here.
Yep. Probably going to be killing this Prison Phoenix, though. That's priority number 1. I guess I-Beam over Immolation Ore is fine. Get that help.
Monsanto will know, right? He'll pick up on this and start planning how to get lethal in the most rapid manner and just ignore his opponent, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're down to a race now. I don't think any player has taken hold of the game. Monsanto obviously has a huge resource advantage, but still a lot of time left before he's going to be able to get the actual kill.
But he also has an information advantage, right? Like, he knows what's going on far better than No Hands does right now.
Yeah. And in Incanter's Flow, great draw here. Has Cram Session for post-quest completion. If he wants that, he could take draw before that, but I think usually getting the huge burst of spell damage that you can and that huge draw from Cram Session. Also picks up Ignite, which, honestly, getting Ignites shuffled back in early on is not a terrible thing at all. In fact, sometimes it's necessary just to accelerate the speed at which you're killing because you're getting the more powerful Ignites back.
Back in the olden days, we used to play Gadgets and Auctioneers and play infinite Ignites. The olden days of last week.
Yeah. Okay, so right now has 3 draws. 4 draws.
The problem is, as the Demon Hunter, when you get into this position, you're not reducing anything because the cards you're top decking are the ones that you're playing to reduce. So you complete the quest, it doesn't reduce any of your cards. That's better. This one does, however, reduce some cards.
Oh,
Yeah.
Guild Trader is going to be all the way. It's the juiced Guild Trader.
Oh my. 0 mana, draw a card. Every card player's dream in any game ever.
Well, no, you can't draw with it. It still costs 1 to trade. It just costs 0 to play.
All the way.
You're keeping that 0 mana. He is lethal with Il'gynoth.
Good point. The Arcanist is now
I
useless.
mean, he can't trade it anyway. Like it still.
Yeah.
If it costs 0, it still costs 1 mana to trade. Trade is a static effect. It can never be reduced.
So far. Change it. No, you're right. But it is a 0 mana plus 2 spell damage, so he's got everything apart from Il'gynoth.
Yep. Because just 1 Moarg is enough in that case, because the Fellscream Blast would be plus 5 damage, doubled once on 3 minions, which is exactly 30.
What to do?
So an Il'gynoth is all No Hands needs at the moment. Has the Persistent Peddler to draw. Doesn't have the Crimson Sigil Runner to draw, unless he's desperate and thinks he's going to die, and just dumps all his minions and then plays Crimson Sigil Runner as a desperation attempt to try and hit Il'gynoth. But he's set.
He's set, but Monsanto is right up there now, completing the quest this turn, hopefully for him.
Time runs out on me.
Yeah, but won't be able to play Arcanist.
Big deal.
Why is that what's called Arcanist? I never know what they're actually called. I never took the time to read it. I just know that they're 5 mana 7/7.
I'm the same. I'm really bad for that as well. I don't know what half the quests are called. It's just the quest line, and I'm really bad for that because they have actually taken the time to give them really cool names when you read through them. Like the Mage one actually tells you what to do on each part. Yeah, Arcanist Dawngrasp.
Okay.
The Mage one just tells you what to do on each part. Like first part's called annoy your opponent, the second part's called lol burn you in the face or something, and so on.
Doing
And
business.
it walks you through the game.
Yep. Ooh. All right. And he can't attack with the Tusk Piercer because that would... no, he can attack with the Tusk Piercer because it would bring Monsanto up to 30. 31, sorry, but then he'd go down to 30, which would mean his OTA is still intact. Actually picks up second Moarg as well. So his full combo would still... He traded the Guild Trader. Oh, because he picked up second Moarg. Okay.
Right. Yeah. He's desperate, right? He's got to find that... He thinks he's probably dead next turn or the turn after. Well, he knows he's dead the turn after.
Yeah, it's most likely the turn after. There's been one flow played, and the Ignites aren't juiced enough.
Yeah.
And he can feel free to attack. So let's count how much mana he needs. So assuming that Il'gynoth doesn't come off the Sigil of Alacrity and it costs 4 mana, he would need Talented Arcanist, Moarg, Il'gynoth. That's 8. So has 1 trade available as well. So could attack, get the Persistent Peddler trade with that as well. And then try and hit Il'gynoth on that and still have enough mana to get the 36 damage combo off.
And looking at what Monsanto's just got, he has to do this, TJ, because Monsanto's going to kill him next turn.
Yes. It is.
So, yeah.
Very
on
likely
trade,
not guaranteed.
Unless he hits the reduced card draw, etc.
Okay, so now actually does have mana for Spectral Sight because Philosophy will copy the 0 mana Moarg, so has 2 extra mana to be able to spend. And has the 1 mana from Persistent Peddler. Okay, so now has to trade the Persistent Peddler.
Pleasure doing this.
Ah, that's a bad draw, actually. Now no longer has enough mana.
And you've just reached the last part.
Because he completed the quest.
Yeah, you just wish this last part wasn't this stupid guy and instead actually just reduced a load more cards for you, don't you? Quite often.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kurtrus, for calling you a stupid guy, but that's how you're seen.
So now wants to get as high as possible in life total. So I think you swing with the Tusk Piercer, trade the Persistent Peddler, and try and find I-Beam.
Okay.
Or
okay. This is the...
I can't play I-Beam, I was going to go Fell Scream. Okay.
Yeah, he's in the world now where, okay, I'm going to make sure... I'm pretty sure I'm dead, but I can't see your hand. I'm going to...
Doesn't kill it. Yeah, I think I would have tried to trade the Persistent Peddler, try and find I-Beam, and then you could Talented Arcanist Moarg I-Beam.
Yeah, I think I like that.
Two Refreshing Spring Waters. How much are these Ignites dealing? I think one is 6 damage and one is the base 5 damage, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
All right. Also has Incanter's Flow available. There's going to Blood Mage, double Ignite, Incanter's Flow, Refreshing Spring Water.
Yeah. That's assuming the game isn't over at that point.
Oh no, he just has it with the double Ignite plus the hit. And the ping. Okay, yeah, he didn't need it. I was counting from 28 without 7 damage from a minion on board.
Because you're not supposed to have one of those when your opponent has.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have one of those normally. But yeah, that's. I mean, I think the way that No Hands played that was quite good, right? The glide pick, denying the quest completion from Monsanto in the early game, which also got him further from completing his quest. And then how he sequenced everything at the end to try and give himself the maximum chance to draw Il'gynoth while still preserving the 36 damage combo was about as good as you can get. His Il'gynoth was just avoiding him. The only turn you could really argue is, was that really the most likely way he survives at the end by leaving 7 damage on the board? Or did he need to get desperate and try and dig for something else, right? Like an I-Beam to go up to 30 and take the Arcanist off board. That's like the only thing I can think of. But at that point, it's like, all right, you're 1 in 9 or whatever it is, 1 in 8 to draw a second I-Beam. Like,